Hello everyone to a brand new mapping video. Today we'll be looking at what did the Soviet Union return in 2023. I've not done a mapping video in about 2 or 3 months. I don't know, it's been a really long time since my 2 first ones. So I'm excited to make this one, and yeah, I'll make it really interesting. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So as everybody knows, here we have Russia. This is Russia, and it's big and mighty and whatever the heck. But the Soviet Union will just kind of spawn in, and we're gonna have the Soviet Union from about the 1950s when Joseph Stalin is still alive, because come on, he's the face of the Soviet Union. Everybody knows who Joseph Stalin is. So we'll have the Soviet Union from about 1950s, right before Joseph Stalin's death in 1953, and basically make it so that their military power right now will be the same as it was in 1950s, but with modern weapons. So let's say they had 50,000 T-34 tanks. That's just an example. They're gonna have 50,000 T-80 tanks. So they will definitely be stronger than Russia is now, I think. But I'll look at the statistics before I tell you guys. Alright, the Soviet Union is now back. And what will Joseph Stalin plan be first? First of all, how does the world react? This monstrosity spawns back and has modern weapons, so it's super strong, can challenge the US more than Russia can modern day. And what will NATO do? What will the EU do? What will everyone do? Well, first of all, Poland shits their ass. They shit themselves, and Poland just immediately mobilizes their military. As Poland, they don't want to repeat history. So Poland is mobilizing. Finland is chilling. I mean, they got the snow on their side, they got the cold on their side, so they're just chilling. Romania is just sitting in the corner wondering what the hell is happening. China, they're happy. They're really happy. China just kind of, was backing off from Russia, but now they're actually closer to them. They're closer to the Soviet Union now, so they're kind of gonna go back to being, buddies. North Korea loves it too. The US is like, what in the tarnation is going on? But Joseph Stalin, he doesn't want to get the smack anymore. He's here to conquer the world. So he's going to make a new alliance, and it's going to be called the Soviet Nations of the East. Yeah, that's interesting. I just made that name up right now, so I apologize. The Soviet Nations of the East. And first of all, North Korea joins this because they like communism. Now, China will definitely think about joining, and they're definitely going to join, as they now like the Soviet Union a lot more. But interesting, Iran joins, as they were very good allies with Russia, and they still like him now, and they're not Soviet. I'm pretty sure there's not. Yeah, there isn't communism in Iran right now, but they're not Soviet, but they're still going to join, and they're going to convert to communism, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of red in Iran now. So right now we have two nations joining the Soviet East Nation, blah blah blah. It's just called the Soviet Alliance. I'm not gonna say that stupid name. And now the Soviet Union is eyeing up some areas. In particular, they're eyeing up Afghanistan and Mongolia. They're gonna make a deal with China to invade Mongolia together. So Russian troops enter from the whole north now. Yeah, there's, not really anything here, but they just want the land. They just want to have some fun, just kind of a warm up of their Soviet troops. They enter from the north. I know there's mountains here in like the Gobi Desert and shit like that, but like, who's gonna stop them? They're the Soviets. They're the Red Army. Like, nobody's gonna stop them. And we're gonna have China colored in purple. Now, I apologize for this like border. It's the purple doesn't like contain inside of Mongolia, but that's fine. We'll be fine. Let's just color China purple like that. And China enters in as the purple color, but they are, of course, in a deal with the Soviets that they're pretty much going to split Mongolia. So this goes pretty quickly, even though the terrain here is like deadly and stuff like that. But yeah, this goes pretty quickly. I'm not going to waste my time on this. So yeah, the Chinese troops push in just like that, and the Soviets sweep up the rest of this. As you can see, yeah, Mongolia surrenders, blah blah blah. And let's look at the peace treaty of this. So as you can see, Mongolia is split up just like so. You can kind of see with dots where it was, which it's stupid, but at the same time it's kind of useful. You can see where Mongolia was, and you can see that the border I draw up was a little thicker than the border that is there from the start. So you can kind of see how it's changed. Now, after these revelations, the UN, NATO, everybody's absolutely shitting themselves. They don't know what to do. U.S. calls out the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin just says "F you" back, and it's crazy. I mean, China and Russia and Iran and North Korea don't even show up to the UN meeting. It's just crazy right now. And basically, Joseph Stalin's trying to get as much land as possible and as much stuff as possible before the war between the Soviet Union and NATO breaks out, because Joseph Stalin, he's a little smart man. He knows it's gonna happen. No matter what, he knows it's gonna happen. No matter if he just sat there and did nothing, they're gonna declare war on him, or he's gonna declare war on NATO. So he's trying to get as much land and as much stuff as quickly as possible before that happens. So next nation, the Soviet alliance, eyes up, is Afghanistan now. If you know something about Afghanistan, it's not going very well to invade it for everyone. I mean, the Soviets tried in like the 60s or 70s, I'm not sure, and miserably failed. The US tried in like the 2000s and also miserably failed. And yeah, this is not a place you'd like to invade. But they declare war on Afghanistan because they don't care, they just want the land. And China also joins on their side, and I'm gonna color them in, oh no, I'm gonna color China in red as well, to know that they're on the same team now, and they're gonna be colored red anyway, because after this war they will be joining the Soviet alliance anyway. So let's look at this interesting war. So Iranian troops enter in from the east. They're quickly stopped because the bad people here, can I say that word? The terror people are pretty good at their thingy, but yeah, Chinese troops coming from the north with Russian troops. They flood in here, so Iranian troops are now free to go in, and yeah, boom, just like this. I think Kabul is like right there. So they spearhead, and Kabul is captured, and they pretty much just take it really easily. It's just gonna be a lot of guerrilla fighting and a lot of terror people that try to mess up stuff. But you know, the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranis quickly get rid of them, as they're very effective at killing their enemies, and they do so very effectively. So now, no guerrilla warfare. All this land is theirs, and now let's look at the peace treaty. So the peace treaty ends up looking like this. The Soviets get a good portion of the north of Afghanistan, and the Iranis get a good portion of the east. China doesn't get anything, but they didn't contribute much, and it would kind of make no sense for them to get anything. And the rest of this land is turned into the Soviet People's Republic of Afghanistan, and they're of course a puppet, so they're forced into the Soviet alliance. And let's look at what happens further after this. So now Joseph Stalin and the Soviets are pretty much running out of options now. First of all, NATO and the UN are just absolutely in chaos. The world is in chaos. They don't know what to do. NATO wants to just instantaneously declare war on the Soviets and defeat them once and for all. But they kind of need to all agree on it. While the UN is like, no, stop. We need peace. We can solve this in a peaceful way. The US is like, what the hell do you mean? This is the Soviet Union. There's no peaceful way to this. And it's just crazy. So the Soviets are still using this time to their advantage to expand. And now they're gonna kind of look in the Middle East, or maybe the Indian region, the Southeast Asian region, as there might still be some opportunities in those regions. So looking here at Pakistan, they were an ally to China, and I'm pretty sure they are pretty good friends with Russia as well now. But they're really good allies with China. So they're gonna ask him, yo, Pakistan, you wanna join the Soviet alliance? And Pakistan's like, do we? We'll think about it. But Russia and China, the Soviets, have already decided that if Pakistan doesn't join, it's over for them. It's over. Now, they're not gonna try to touch India as well. It's India. Going down here, Vietnam just despises China. And, I mean, there are communists, but they're kind of like different type of communism now. It's actually pretty good in Vietnam now, I'm pretty sure. Myanmar is going to be easy to take down. Laos is going to be easy to take down, but it's kind of going to be weird, so they might maybe make puppets of them. While in the Middle East, it's complicated. Saudi Arabia is not an option, the whole Saudi Arabian peninsula. But we have Iraq, Syria, Lebanon. All of these countries are kind of, you know, could be easily taken. I mean, Syria already is a good ally to Russia and stuff like that. But ultimately, they decide to make their first move on Southeast Asia. So the Soviet alliance declares war on Myanmar and Laos at the same time. and they start to invade. Now the main the main country invading here will of course be China. So they're going up north. Of course, we do have jungles here, as the Americans have experienced. They're not very good in jungles. They quickly cut Laos off from Myanmar. Myanmar is absolute chaos. I mean, is a military coup still going on there? Even if it's not, Myanmar has just been chaos for like many years now. Cut off this part and just eliminate this. They have some specialist forces from jungle. Now I don't know where the capital of Myanmar is, but does that really matter right now? No. So let's slow down here to the ocean, the Indian Ocean to be exact. Slow down through Laos pretty swiftly. They just have some jungles. It's pretty much the only thing stopping them. There's just some resistance left down here while they go down here with Myanmar. Meet up with the water. Go down here. Boom, boom, boom. Pretty much like this. And yeah, Myanmar is kind of done for now. So Myanmar surrenders. There will be some guerrilla warfare, but not much. And Laos also surrenders. This was very easy. Now let's go to the peace treaty of this war. So the peace treaty of this war is pretty interesting. China just kind of takes a huge chunk, round chunk out of Myanmar and a little bit of land in Laos, and the rest is made into puppets, which are of course forced to join the Soviet alliance. Now India starts to get concerned, so they decide to ask Bangladesh, sorry, not Bangladesh, I apologize, not Bangladesh, I mean Bhutan, which is over here, and Nepal, if they want to unite. Now, it's not going to do much, no, that's not really going to do much, but they still do. So Bhutan and Nepal are now part of India, and they're asking Bangladesh too, but Bangladesh is going to hesitate a little bit, as of course they're Muslim, and Muslims and Hindus don't get along very well. Now NATO is starting to get really concerned now, because the Soviets are getting into many different areas of the world now. So while waiting on actually being able to start the war, they're going to look forward to expanding their alliance to get more fronts and to get more nations to fight alongside against these monsters. Alright, so all of NATO has now a color in, and I will actually also color in Sweden, as I'm not sure if they've been ratified yet, but either way, it just makes sense to color them in. So they're going to be looking for new members. The first new member is actually going to be Morocco now. Spain and Morocco have some beef in between, but it will definitely be a good member to add to their alliance. Some other members, which are going to make the alliance not North Atlantic anymore, but we're still getting called NATO, is Japan and South Korea. These are two countries with formidable forces, very strong countries. Australia and New Zealand are also going to get on the fun and join NATO. The Philippines will also get in on the fun, and it's going to take me some time to color in all these islands. Alright, that's good enough. And for now, that will be all the countries that NATO will add to their collection of NATO. That actually sounded very weird. Now we have the Soviets looking into the Middle East. First of all, Syria will join the Soviet alliance. They're not Soviet, I mean Iran is a Soviet as well, and stuff like that. But they will join the Soviet alliance. And yeah, some expansion is going to happen. First of all, we're going to try to connect to Syria. So we're going to invade Iraq. Iran doesn't really care about Iraq anymore. They're just going to try to take it for land and probably make it a puppet. So now let's go to this war really quickly. So Iranian forces invade from the west. I almost said east. Cut off Syria. I mean, not Syria. Turkey can't do anything. Syria just kind of pushed in a little bit. And yeah, Soviets are also going to try to get Syria to a stable state. So that they're, you know, kind of functional. Baghdad is taken, and everything is pretty much collapsing. And we just have one other interesting thing happening, and that is Saudi Arabia joining in on the war, not on the side of the Soviets, of course, and they take a little bit of land of Iraq for themselves. Now let's look at the peace treaty of this war. Alright, the peace treaty is going to end up looking like this. So Iraq is actually not going to be, you know, split up between like Syria and Iran. Only country that gets some land out of it is Saudi Arabia, and the rest it will be made into a puppet of the Soviets, of course, trying to change the government, and they're actually going to work a lot on stability in these two countries, in particular Syria and Iraq, as they want them stable. They want them to actually be able to do something. And Saudi Arabia, as you can see, actually joins NATO. I mean, they're on salty terms with the US right now, but they prefer NATO much more over this abomination of red countries. And they also unite with Kuwait, as Kuwait is scared. Now, some of the quick things that are gonna happen here are kind of not very big enough to talk about, but yeah, as you can see, Lebanon is kind of gone. Jordan decides to not. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Jordan decides not to unite with Saudi Arabia, but they will actually join NATO as they're really scared. And we've kind of come to the area of. Let's just avoid this area. Now, going over to the Pakistan area. Pakistan actually decided against joining the Soviets, but you remember what I said. Soviet Union and China decided that if Pakistan says no, then they will cease to exist, and they declare full-scale war on this ginormous and really powerful country, but it doesn't matter as they are stronger. So troops from pretty much, the whole Soviet alliance will be pouring into Pakistan, and Pakistan will do some good defense, but not enough. Irani troops pour in from here. Afghani troops pour in from here a little bit. They have actually managed to stable Afghanistan a little bit, so that's pretty good. This Kashmir area is just death, but the Chinese and the Soviets overrun the Pakistan in this area and make them completely retreat from Kashmir. Irani forces try to slip, and what am I saying right now? The Irani forces try to slip around the coast and then kind of start succeeding. Also, bulk out over here. Russian troops, Soviet troops, whatever, are entering in from Afghanistan as well, and the defenses of Pakistan are falling quickly. Now, when this happens, India is like, okay, no, we are joining NATO, and Bangladesh is like, yeah, we're joining NATO as well. We're not going to unite with you, India, but we're joining NATO as we are shitting our pants right now. Sri Lanka is like, what the hell did I do? UAE joins NATO, Oman joins NATO, even Qatar joins. They only have their giant football stadiums that are not going to be existent in a second. Vietnam joins. There's a lot of nations being scared to death right now by this abomination. I mean, they literally decided to invade Pakistan, a really strong country, in the top 10. The nations around pretty close to Pakistan see this and they're like, nah, we're not signing up for this. But let's continue on the invasion of Pakistan. Chinese, oh, that's the wrong color. Chinese troops absolutely pour in mass amounts from north. Eventually they take Islamabad. Soviet troops pour in from the east. Irani troops managed to pretty much take the whole coast. They cut off this pocket of a lot of troops. They spearhead over to India's border, and Pakistan is at the end forced to surrender. Now let's look at the peace treaty of this war. So this is how the peace treaty of this war ends up looking. Basically, China, Soviet Union, and Iran just take small pieces of it for themselves, and the rest they change the government to pro-communist Soviet government, and they're forced to join the alliance. They couldn't puppet Pakistan as well. A lot of people there and stuff like that. It's just too big of a country to puppet, but it's the government type is changed, and they are now pro-Soviet and join the Soviet alliance. And now the Soviets are just gonna do one last push to get a little bit more members on the team, which includes Yemen, which is going to be of absolutely no help. They also get Palestine, which, Israel considers that theirs. I said that I wasn't going to touch that area, but what happened, and I am touching that area. Israel joins NATO, and this area is now very disputed, which just kind of gives more reason to start this war, as, yeah, just look at this abomination. Yeah, and they look for more members. They're not really finding anything good enough for them, and only thing that happens is that NATO gets some more members, like Thailand, as Thailand is absolutely shitting their pants. And Cambodia also joins. That is pretty surprising. I'm not really sure where Cambodia stands, whether they're leaning towards China, Russia, or the US modern day, but we're just gonna go ahead and assume that they join NATO, as they are scared. But now the moment we have all been waiting. Actually, no, that's not, no. Taiwan, they also join NATO. Really strong military, which angers China a lot. But now, the big moment we've been waiting for. The big, epic, super duper, big ass war is going to happen now. The Soviet alliance against NATO. Everyone in the world is absolutely shitting themselves. And where would it start? Well, good old Poland and Soviet Union. Actually, it's going to start several spots at the same time, as the Soviets know that many countries have already mobilized in NATO, like on their borders. For example, Turkey, Romania, Hungary, Poland, Finland. We have Saudi Arabia, India, Vietnam, South Korea. Countries like that have already mobilized their militaries. So they're gonna do a surprise attack to give them a small advantage over NATO. They know NATO is going to declare war on them any second, so they're gonna do it before NATO can do it and do a surprise attack. So, the Soviet alliance declares war on NATO, and they will start, well, I said they're gonna start at several spots, but we're gonna be looking at the spot where they are probably getting in some deep water as they enter Finland. Yes, Finland, the nation that is literally unstoppable. Yeah, they're unstoppable. They also enter Norway a little bit. And if they walk in just like this, it's surprise. That's why they take so much land. They are unable to make a move down here close to St. Petersburg, though, but they take a formidable amount of land anyway. And now Poland is fully mobilized since this popped up already, so it's going to be really difficult to, you know, really do anything there. But it's still a surprise attack, and they managed to take a little portion of Poland, but they're not able to do much, as Poland was well prepared for this moment. And Poland, surprisingly, even though the Soviets are immensely way more stronger than Poland, actually does this little push up here, which just angers Joseph Stalin like really bad. They were prepared for this. They already have a strategy. They know that Soviets are way more powerful than them, and they have a strategy for how to defend themselves. And they do this little push, actually close to encircling Kaliningrad. Soviets also push into Romania over here. Romania is also mobilized, but they are weaker than Poland, and they're definitely going to take a bigger hit from the Soviets right now. Soviets also enter Hungary a little bit here, and Slovakia here, and the tip of Poland. Down in the Black Sea, we have a lot of naval fighting happening. The Soviets have upgraded their bases and everything significantly, and actually, it's like split half. The Black Sea is like split half between the Soviets and NATO right now. Now, Turkey is in a little pickle here. The Soviets start pushing a little bit here, but it's going to be hard because of the terrain. Iran, Iraq, and Syria push in a little bit here and a little bit here. Of course, there are like Soviet and some Chinese troops here, because Syria and Iraq would definitely not be able to do this, yeah, without any help. And they do a little push in here. It's hard because of the terrain, and the Turks are holding on pretty well, but they're already taking big hits. Over down here, we have the Soviets quickly. Now, when I say Soviets, I'm just gonna refer to the whole alliance now. So the Soviets, the whole alliance, they're all Soviet nations now. Communism. So the Soviets enter into Saudi Arabia very swiftly, but get stopped pretty quickly. While on the other hand, Palestine, I'm sorry if you're from Palestine, this happens, and Israel just goes god mode on Syria. I mean, Israel just kind of likes invading Syria and stuff, so they do all of that. And Saudi Arabia also pushes in a little bit here, also entering into Iran, which is, you know, interesting. Over by Yemen, this is kind of just a distraction, but Omani troops enter right here, and they start obliterating them. Saudi Arabia is having a field day. They love doing stuff to this country. They do this, and this will soon be over, but it is, of course, a little distraction. Going over to a very interesting part of the world, we have India. This will be very, very interesting. India and Bangladesh are going to have to hold on to their Indian subcontinent very hard, and from the east, nobody's actually able to do anything. I mean, the Indians have always been preparing for like some kind of thing with Pakistan, so they have really good defense here. No one is able to do anything here. We have the Himalayas. Kashmir is just deaf. We just have some stuff happening in the west, and that is a slight push in by the Soviet forces, a little bit from Myanmar into Bangladesh, just like that. A little bit this. We have some jungle here and some mountains, but just a small little push in right here. In Southeast Asia, this is really sad for these countries. I mean, do you really have any chances? Not really. But there are some American troops in Vietnam, I'm pretty sure. And the Americans are sending like troops, most likely here as well, because they know that this area is like screwed. But they enter in into Thailand like that, enter into Vietnam here. But they need to be careful with Vietnam. The Vietnamese jungles are especially bad. Enter into Laos right here. I mean, from Laos to Thailand. But Thailand does this little swift move and takes back this Myanmaran part, and boom, and front looks like that. And also, all of these countries managed to push into Laos and push it back. They're trying to straighten out the border a little bit, but Vietnam might be screwed as they're really thin right over here. China is, I mean, Soviets, I'm gonna say the Soviets. Soviets are, gonna attempt to invade Taiwan, but they actually have really good defense right now, so they're gonna wait a little bit on that. On this front, Soviets are really hardly trying to push into South Korea, but that is of no, they're just not gonna be able to do it, as South Korea's and North Korea's borders are just the most secure borders on Earth. Going back to Yemen, Yemen just gets absolutely obliterated and they're gone. Going back to the Middle East, we have interesting stuff happening. First of all, Saudi Arabia manages to push back the Soviet troops out of their country, and they're starting to push in for Baghdad. But they quickly get stopped as new Soviet forces arrive at the site, and they are quick to stop them. Israel continues their pushback. Their goal is to connect up with Turkey, and they're actually really close to doing it, and Damascus has also fallen. But of course, as I said, Soviet reinforcements arrive in this area, and they do a huge pushback. They're actually trying to get to Jerusalem. And yeah, Israel is now looking really interesting. It's just like a huge slit of land. They're definitely going to have to retreat from this area soon. In Turkey, things are not going great. The Soviets are pushing in from all directions, try to slither up by the Black Sea, and it's just not going good. They're trying to hold on, but it's really difficult. Over here, Romania is getting overrun by Soviet troops. As by themselves right now, they're just not able to defend, but they're gonna try to keep the capital safe and survive. Poland is holding on really well, but they're slowly getting pushed back. In the north, they have established very well placed defenses, and they try to push in to Kaliningrad a little more with little to no success, but they still do something, as you can see. And well, as we're speaking, they just cut off Kaliningrad. This is really surprising. Okay, I would not have been expecting this from Poland, but they cut off Kaliningrad, which is a huge W, and they quickly set up good defense in here, as Poland just really hates this abomination, and they just really want to win this against them. In Finland, we have Finland pushing back in the north, as it's cold here at all times. Anyway, actually push back into the Soviet Union a little bit, and the Soviet forces are really surprised by what the heck is happening up here. Down to Turkey again. Turkey does a counter-attack, which is pretty dang successful. They push back to the border and actually enter the Soviet Union. You know what, maybe I'm just gonna call it the Soviets, but also say like China and stuff like that, because it's kind of better. Israel manages to push the Soviet troops back once again in this area. They take Damascus back, and they are really angry mode now. And what the hell is this abomination? But Soviet troops are focused down here, as they really just want to get into Saudi Arabia and eliminate them. Saudi Arabia is a big threat in this area, as much as Israel, but yeah, they really want to get in there. As you can see, they're going for Jordan. Jordan is just getting a bit. Jordan just kind of got caught up in the whole action. They didn't have to join this, but they did. Their front is looking like this. Going over to South Korea and North Korea. South Korea actually emerges with an advantage here, as they have also Japan's help here, and they start a push in, all out push into North Korea, and it goes really slowly, but it's going really well. They're actually approaching Pyongyang, and it's going very well for them. And of course, Japan and South Korea are using all of their military power to protect themselves and also bombard the coasts of China. Over in Southeast Asia, it's just not going well. It's just going terribly for these countries. They're getting overrun. Vietnam gets screwed over just like that, and it's just not going good. As you can see, it's going really bad, and not many American troops have arrived yet, and these countries are getting overrun. Indian defenses eventually do get penetrated, and there's a huge pushback of Soviet troops on this border. Not really into Kashmir, but as I said, that is death. Soviets now advance more into Europe, going into Hungary and Slovakia particularly. Now we have the Carpathian Mountains on the border of Czechia, Slovakia, Poland, and going down to Romania. But the Carpathian Mountains aren't a very big problem. They go in here, and they go in from the south by the Carpathian Mountains into Poland. They quickly get stopped by Polish troops, though, but they're still obliterating Romania, push over to the border of Serbia, and now this is a tricky thing. Now, Serbia is actually not going to join the war on the side of the Soviet Union, as they're closer to Russia than they would be to the Soviets, and they're not really communism, you know? but Romania is getting overrun to the militaries of these countries down in the Balkans go up and, you know, help out with pretty much the full capacity of their militaries. Turkey and the Balkans just need to hold on. Soviets push really far back. They take Bratislava, and Slovakia is pretty much lost. They push over to Austria's border and now start to enter Czechia. Poland is also getting pretty smacked around here, but they're holding on pretty dang well. In the north, it's actually going really good for them, not really in the south, but in the north. Let's look what is going on in the north. Kaliningrad gets taken, and they push over by the coast really quickly here. They're going to try to get to Vilnius and kind of start a rebellion of the Lithuanian people, as the Lithuanians are not all for this Soviet thing. Eventually they get to Vilnius, and pockets of like smaller rebellions of Lithuanians start to happen, just Lithuanians right now, but there's a lot of pockets, and these pockets just quickly start to connect, and the front by Lithuania in the Soviet Union is kind of starting to, get screwed over, as you can see, as these pockets of rebellions start to connect up, and this happens, the Polish military enters, and it's just not going well for the Soviets. In Lithuania, eventually all of this happens, and Lithuania is kind of almost liberated. Poles also start to push back a little bit in the south, but they're just holding defenses right here, right now, because they know that they cannot push back the Soviet Union. So, good old America has arrived in Turkey and just in the Balkans, right in this area, as this is where they're needed a lot. And the good old American boys start to push back. Oh yeah, baby, rawr, give me that oil. Okay, that was really cringe. I'm sorry. Oh god. But they enter into Syria, as they are really good at entering into Syria, and push back significantly here until the Soviets set up good defenses over here. They've been pretty much pushed back from Turkey, and the Americans start to enter into Romania right now. The Soviets are definitely scared of the Americans, but they think that they can stop them. And yeah, with the help of some other countries that by themselves, they actually would not be able to do this, because the Soviets are just so strong now. Start to push into Pakistan, and Pakistani people slowly start to rebel. They're not exactly in favor of India, of course, but they are rather in favor of India than this communism thing. So India manages to get a pretty good hold of Pakistan because of these small rebellions right here, but eventually they get stopped, and they set up defensive. And they set up defensive positions. While on the west, they push back a little bit of the Chinese/Soviet troops, but not a lot, and actually push in a little bit on the north, just kind of as a distraction. Even though there's like 50 million trillion mountains here, but that's okay for the Indians. Good old Americans are as well here to support in South Korea. They're pretty much everyone out. And yeah, North Korea, it gets absolutely overran, pushed back. And now there are American, Japanese, South Korean troops here. China, Soviets, whatever. They did not expect this so quickly. They weren't really prepared. As you can see, this pushback is significant. They even take that city in Russia, what is called Vladivostok, right here. And this is significant. They have done a lot here, but they eventually get stopped, and they set up defensive positions, and they know that they're not getting any further than this right now. The oil people also arrive in Southeast Asia and start to push back the Soviets. I mean, they're not really professional at jungles, but they have the help of some jungle people or wherever, and they get help. Eventually, they get stopped, as they did not send, that much here. But now this front is, pretty straightened up, and you can, see a front here. The Soviets try to focus on Europe, and they kind of just up their invasion of Europe even more, which, might lead to some mistakes, but they push into Czechia a lot. Poland, they're still trying to crush Poland. Poland is, crumbling kind of slowly. They push back into Lithuania right here, but Poland is still holding on, and then they're like really angry at Finland and push them back. Even managed to push in here, push them back here, and push back a lot in the north. Just enter back into Romania, even though there's Americans here, and they managed to completely go through Hungary and start to enter into Croatia and Slovenia. But the front of the Soviets in the Middle East has not been established very well, and all of this just kind of starts to crumble. We now also have oil people here, aka Americans, pushing back. We have all the forces, of Israel, Saudi Arabia, some even Turkish troops are probably down here, maybe. And all of these countries are just pushing back together the Soviets. These forces of communism and stuff like that. They pushed them back. Eventually, after a long time, of course, they enter into Iran, which is significant. This also leads the Soviets into leaving Turkey, and Turkey starting a small push into the Soviet Union. So now the Soviets have lost the Middle East, so they're gonna decide to even up their invasion of Europe even more, which also might be a mistake because they're sending actually maybe too many troops into Europe. But Poland is getting crumbled. They're actually approaching Warsaw. This area gets boom. Lithuania is pretty much taken back, but Poland is still holding on to Kaliningrad. And here we have the Germans stopping the Soviets. Croatia gets overran like this. We just have some resistance down here. Yeah, that resistance crumbled. Italian troops are holding on to Slovenia, and we actually have all of Romania being taken over, and well, they're getting stopped at the Bulgarian border. But this might have been a mistake, as the support for Soviet troops, Russians, is needed in India, as Iran is kind of just focused on their eastern border now, and China is not able to hold on to all of this by themselves, so India starts to have a good advantage over them by taking back Pakistan, and they actually take Islamabad just like that, and Pakistan is being liberated. Also, that India enters even from the west coast of Iran, so now they're really pooping in their pants. India manages to push back China here and connect up with the oil people / Southeast Asia, and now they have a united front against China and Southeast Asia. And eventually, after India just goes into Pakistan, the Soviet government of Pakistan officially surrenders, and we have Indian troops entering Afghanistan, which this will just spark new Terry people to emerge, and yeah, we kind of just have different groups of not very good people popping up here, and India is just gonna be like, yeah, we're not really going in here, let's just chill out. They kind of signed peace with these guys, but then these guys try to emerge in Iran as well, and this just sparks into a whole rebellion, and then all these guys get killed by one rebellion, and then we have Afghanistan 2.0 stuff happening over here. They're just like angry at everyone other than NATO, because NATO let them live. So yeah, this area of the Soviets is just absolutely crumbling. We have this rebellion just popping up everywhere now for some odd reason. Even up here. This is beginning to be really bad for Iran. Now, as the Soviets / Russians kind of have to get troops to many more places now, the mistakes start to emerge, as that is a big mistake also, as now they are getting pushed back in Europe, as that the troops that they had here, that was the amount needed to hold on to this, but now they get pushed back. Budapest is retaken, Bratislava is captured back, Poland managed to push off here, and we have a encirclement here with a good amount of Soviet / Russian troops. And we now have a pretty united front over here. NATO troops re-enter into Romania, take off Bucharest, and start to enter the Soviet Union in the Moldova / Ukraine area. Iran is now crumbling really badly, so NATO troops continue to push in around this lake, sliver around the coast here, and they're gonna do a spearhead for Tehran. I mean, this rebellion is just getting ridiculous right now. Everyone is just rebelling. This is a different rebellion, but they're on the same side. I can see that it's a different type of yellow, but whatever, it doesn't matter. India's gonna stop pushing in, as they don't want to get into some beef with these rebellions, but these rebellions kind of just crumble Iran, and yeah, it's bad. Eventually the Tehran area rebels, and they connect up, and Iran is just kind of out of the war, so NATO stops pushing in, and yeah, Iran is just kind of out of the war, just like this. So this is a mess. This causes many Soviet troops to be kind of cut off, and causes this area to fall over to NATO somehow, and now they take back all of the Caucasus and stop at the Caucasus Mountains, and they're not going to be able to get over those. The Indians just start to push back here, and they actually enter kind of this deadly area, but they're trying to kind of distract the Soviets down here, so they need to send troops, also trying to distract the Chinese. As you know, they can do that. In the front of Southeast Asia, Chinese are also getting bested. They get completely pushed back from India, and the United Front moves in, eventually liberates all of Vietnam. And this is looking really bad for India, as now they also enter mainland India, China as it was, and they started to slither around this coast. And as you know, this coast is very important for China, so this is really bad. We have Americans landing on this island and take it. We have a landing taking place here, and this is just really, really bad. Of course, China is now mostly distracted down here, which also opens up to invade into here. These guys' goal is to just take over Manchuria, and also they do this, which just kind of stops Russia from doing anything in this area, because what I have color in now is just kind of all they got important here. Japan also lands on Sakhalin and just takes over all of Sakhalin. So yeah, Sakhalin is now theirs. They just take a little bit more of this area, but nothing more worth taking. There's really nothing Russians can do about it. They can just sit there in their cold stuff and die. This gets taken. Yeah, China's crumbling. I mean, their military is getting really mismanaged. This might look really unrealistic, and it is a little bit unrealistic, but this is how they managed to push in, as China is like really, really unorganized. Many Chinese troops are not even in China right now. They still remain in, like, for example, Iran and Pakistan got taken prisoners, and they're just not managing the fronts very well. Eventually, Finland pushes the Soviets completely out of Finland, and they start their own pushback, connect to this lake, connect there. Soviets, they're also crumbling. Kola Peninsula is, yeah, when they took that, Kola Peninsula pretty much is finished now. And they start push back here, just a lot of snow here. It's now actually, it's winter now. You know what that means? That means this. It's winter. St. Petersburg falls. It's winter. We have Americans landing in Estonia, Americans landing in Riga. They take back this. And let's go back to being realistic now. NATO manages to push the Soviets slowly back out of Romania, out of all these countries. Poland pushes back, and the Soviets start to retreat into mainland Soviet Union / Russia, whatever. And yeah, it's slowly going very bad. So then they push into Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, even Soviet troops are now rebelling. Push over to here. Yeah, Kyiv is taken, and it's really not going well. All of the Baltics are retaken, and the Soviets know that they're screwed. Joseph Stalin knows that he's screwed, and he does not know what to do, so he sends everyone into the front lines. Children, women, men, dogs, horses, freaking shovels. I don't know what that was. Everything into battle, but NATO, just the amount of troops they have now immense is actually more than the Soviets, and they managed to push back Soviets. Now, of course, this would take a immense amount of time, but eventually, yeah, they get to Moscow, just like that. Ukraine is taken, just like this. Landing's taken here. This is just kind of speedrunners. There's yeah, this would just happen really quickly. Obviously, it's not just, it would just happen like that. Oil fields are taken, and the Soviet Union is just done for, pretty much. The people don't want it, the people don't like it, and the people are rebelling. China is also crumbling. Their mismanagement of the military has caused them a lot of their important coast. The south gets taken. Eventually, China kind of gets their shit together and stops this, but it's just kind of too late. There's so many troops here: Indian, American, Australian, Southeast Asian. Up in the north, we have South Korean and Japanese troops pushing into Manchuria. They take over this, and they're actually approaching Beijing. We even have a landing by the Americans taking place here, and Chinese people actually start to rebel against the communism, surprisingly. And eventually, China knows that they're screwed, and they're gonna go sign for peace. Soviets are screwed, and yeah, this is how it ends up looking at the end of the war. Now, I'm not gonna drop a peace treaty. I would just kind of go back to normal and stuff like that. I'm not really sure how this would work out, but this is how the war ends. Really, really interesting ending, I think. And that is all I have for you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, as we're trying to do 200 subscribers before the end of 2023. I will definitely be doing more mapping scenarios like this, in the future. Really enjoy doing this one. So yeah, like the video, turn notifications on to be notified about the next time a mapping video comes out. And yeah, follow my Twitter, link me down in the description. There's a Discord server, Star Wars based, called Local Empire. If you are interested in Star Wars, join that Discord server, link will be down in the description of the video. Next mapping video will be out next week or in 2 weeks, we will see. Anyway, this is it. This is the way, and may the Force be with you. Till then, I will see you next time.